Welcome to the 25th episode of the Honor Society, covering all things Ring of Honor, live from the No Sale Studios. I'm the Ace to the Tavern, Acefield Retro, and as always, joined by my fellow partner, so filled with honor, at Mullet.mania, Colton. What's up, dude?
What's going on, brother? Man, it was another action-packed week of Ring of Honor TV, man. Just loving every minute of it.
90 minutes, and you and I were talking about it off air. They don't have the restriction of TV and have to fit certain things into 2 hours. If they don't have 2 hours, they give us 90 minutes. Some weeks they give us 60. Some weeks they give us 2 hours. It's just a beautiful thing. A lot of good wrestling tonight.
It is, man. And I like, we've always talked about how they really pack a lot in when they go the full 2 hours without having to break for commercials or anything like that. And like, honestly, sometimes in a 2 hour show, it's almost by the time we get to the halfway through the card, it's hard for me to keep straight what's happened. So I'm really enjoying, I think the last 4 weeks have been right about 90, which is a real sweet spot for them, man. I'm really enjoying that format.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens when they return to doing the bulk tapings in Universal Studios and what goes on with that, because taping prior or after Dynamite leaves what, we've talked at length about what it does to the product. And I think what spoke volumes of, we'll speak about during the match. And you texted me about it with someone yawning during Athena's match. That kind of speaks to the fans are exhausted by the time they're seeing this show. And it's not fair to the product in the ring because these guys are pouring their hearts into the ROH brand. And sometimes it's not hitting with the audience because they're just tired of the full taping that they're sitting through.
Yeah, man. I mean, you can be as diehard of a wrestling fan as you want to be, but I mean, if you showed up and watched Dark and all of Dynamite, I mean, at that point, if you're taping an ROH show after all that, I mean, you've been sitting in there for, damn near 3.5, 4 hours at this point already, and you got 2 to go. Like, it's hard to keep that energy level up. I can speak from experience.
Yeah, so we'll see if the culture changes a little bit. I think those first 4 episodes we look at fondly, and it might just be because the just started ROH again, and we were excited. And yeah, we're still enjoying the product, but I think it would be better for them. And if they're going to tape in bulk, they need to go to a spot where people feel like they're going to see the ROH product, and it's not just an add-on to the AEW product. So I think it's going to be better for them. And I think this weekend is what they're doing it. They're going to be doing it, I think, probably 8 episodes, 6 to 8 episodes. So we'll see the next 2 months of production, and we'll see if we get any information about Death Before Dishonor. That usually is in July. We have no date yet, but I'm assuming they have to announce it soon because tickets should be going on sale.
Yeah, you would think so. Man, God, what an action-packed summer of wrestling we're going to have, man. Between Death Before Dishonor, we got Double or Nothing coming up at the end of here at May 28th, and then the Wembley show, and then all out after. Gosh, it's just going to be so much wrestling going on. I can't wait.
Not to mention Forbidden Door, too. And ROH might have something to do with that. And I love to, I'm not saying they're going to have a big piece of All In, but the legacy of All In is tied with ROH because of what happened. When they purchased the ROH, name brand, All In came with that. And it's weird because you think of AEW when you think of All In, but that original show was an ROH vehicle. So maybe they'll have some tribute, some preview to it. But man, I know we're not going to talk about it in the news, but at this point in time, we got over 50,000 tickets sold for All In London. And that's before the general admission tickets that start to get, sold on Friday. So we're looking good, man. And prediction for numbers, I think anyone would have been happy with 45 to 50. And that's before even anybody outside of the pre-sale codes are getting an opportunity to buy. This is good stuff.
Yeah, dude, hitting 50 in pre-sales in less than 72 hours is unreal. I'm happy to see it. I'm not necessarily surprised, but it definitely exceeded my expectations, and I think pretty much anybody who is looking at this. So yeah, all I can say is congrats to AEW and congrats to Tony Khan, because yeah, that's got to be a good feeling going in with a solid 50K before they go on sale this Friday.
%. I think that's a big piece to what we're doing here. I think ROH is going to be continuing to carve their legacy going forward, and we're going to see exactly what happens with the deal on their end. They're going to continue to grind on the Honor, on the Honor Club app, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing what things look like through this summer with all the action we got going.
All right, so let's get into the news and talk. We have a light news week with ROH, but let's talk about what's been going on with the Scoop. The Scoop, breaking down all the news in ROH ROH. And first things first here, let's talk about Roderick Strong is All Elite. And we know that his legacy is tied with the ROH brand. The Ring of Honor legacy is tied with, the guy, the king of the backbreaker, Roderick Strong. We saw him in action last night on Dynamite. We saw him debut, saving at Hole. And we talk about his role here in AEW, but I think ultimately, Colton, his home will be in ROH. And I think he's going to have a huge say come, maybe this summer once they start to separate Adam Cole from this old Undisputed Era booking.
Yeah, man, good to see Roderick Strong make a return. We haven't seen anything from this guy in quite a while because he was under contract with WWE for so long. So yeah, I was excited to see him. I was not expecting it, but yeah, I'm hoping to see him land in ROH. I know that's kind of definitely where he cut his teeth and had some of his most successful times in his career. And I think it would be remiss to not have him, come back and take a pretty serious strong point here in that company.
And I think we will see him. And of course, we'll see him on both brands. And that might be a little bit of what goes on for a bit. And when you tape in bulk, you can have guys there for the whole weekend. And you can use them for an extended period of time. You can still get them on AEW television. But we talked about having the separation of the two brands would be important going forward. I think if you're figuring out where people go on Collision, if that's going to be its own show and Dynamite's its own show, I think out of all of them, ROH would most benefit from having Roderick Strong. And I think he could be presented in the main event way. I mean, give me Claudio versus Roderick Strong. Give me Roderick Strong versus Samoa Joe. I need those matchups to happen. And Roderick Strong, he probably has to shake off the rust a little bit. We haven't seen him wrestle since October of last year. So that's something that he was kind of held on the shelf on WWE, and they held him, hostage as far as contract goes. He requested release. I'm just happy to see him able to get out there and express himself creatively, whether it be with AEW or ROH. I'm hoping it's ROH.
Yeah, same here, man. I mean, yeah, he's definitely, I'm sure he's got some ring rust to knock off a little bit, but I mean, physically, guy's looking great. Brother's definitely still been in the gym. He's in great shape, and yeah, I'm hoping to see. I think he's got a spot in ROH to fill. It'd be nice to have him.
So let's get into our other news story here. AEW's Commander suffered a possible injury on Demand Lucha show. So we know the 24-year-old faced Gringo Loco and Arez in the main event of a three-way match in Toronto's Parkdale Hall last Thursday. So we looked at post-wrestling's John Pollock was in attendance, and he was talking about how Commander appeared to be favoring his knee after a moonsault. He was taken to the back, did not return. A Reddit user who says they were also at the show said the Commander attempted to return to the match but was limping badly, wasn't able to continue. Demand Lucha had actually announced on April 10th that an unforeseen travel complication would prevent Commander from traveling to Canada for the show. However, as the main event between Gringo Loco and Arez was about to start, we got a surprise appearance from Commander, so the crowd was happy to see him. Fingers crossed he's okay. We've seen some people banged up here. We talked about Ray Phoenix taking some time off, even though we saw him on Dynamite. They're like, all right, I know you want some time off, bro, but you got to come and just do this battle royal quick. We need you as a trio. But same thing with Commander, 24 years old. These guys go out there and risk life and limb in the ring with the things they're doing. So he has a bright future, and I'm hoping that we do see him back in the ring sooner than later.
Yeah, same here, man. Hopefully it's not too severe of an injury. I mean, especially with his style, man. I mean, you run the risk every time with this high flying style that, you could hurt yourself pretty bad. But I mean, he's 24 years old. He'll be able to bounce back quickly, I'm sure.
Yeah, and so we were talking about his match in the main event here on ROH TV, and I have to look at the timeline as far as I'm pretty sure this ROH was taped after this Commander match. So it would make sense coming from Canada, hurting his knee. He was limited in a lot of ways. You had used the word disappointing as far as the match goes. And I would agree. Having those two guys in the ring, especially in that main event slot, it did not seem like they went all out like they usually would. And I understand it's a TV taping, but something was amiss with Commander even before I read the news that he was hurt.
Yeah, for sure. And I think maybe that might have something to do with, we'll get into it as well. But I just thought overall, just from both guys, was a little bit underwhelming from what I'm used to seeing from them. And maybe Angelico was a little muted himself for that reason, to not have to make Commander go, above and beyond in the extra mile, working a little bit hurt.
So let's get into the ROH TV results. And this was taped at the Sunrise, Florida Dynamite show, April 26th. We got Ian Riccaboni, Caprice Coleman, Nigel McGuinness on the call. And we open up straight away with what is a match I was really looking forward to. Rocky Romero coming back to the AEW North American landscape. Having him here in ROH is really cool to see. New Japan Pro Wrestling, Rocky Romero. He took on Lee Moriarty with Big Bill in his corner. So I love this undercard feud for the Pure Championship and around the Pure Championship division. That's really what you can say here. And having this involvement is making the Pure Championship feel important, and it feels like it's very sought after. So everyone is kind of trying to climb that hill to take on Shibata. And these Pure matches, it's awesome to give people exposure to the rules outside of the championship matches to really get people used to it. And I thought this was a good idea for an opener. And match was really good. I was kind of surprised with the booking of this and how it went. And seeing Big Bill get involved too on the outside, it was interesting, especially since, I mean, that's easy heat with this, with the Pure rules, but it just seems like low hanging fruit that you kind of want these guys to go out there and have a natural match. But, Rocky Romero gets the win here, and seeing him get the win was interesting to me. Maybe it kind of signals that he'll be spending more time on ROH television and maybe AEW television going forward throughout the summer.
Yeah, man, I hope so. And I felt similarly. I thought that, when 2-3 weeks back, when we first saw Lee Moriarty on ROH TV, I was like, man, I really want to see this guy in a Pure Rules match. And yeah, they booked it just a little bit differently than I thought they would. It definitely, Lee probably got the fastest rope break in a Pure match history. Like, he got the first rope break like 8 seconds in, man. And it was just it told a good story. It was cool to see Rocky get a win over him this week, especially after how their matchup last week went. I thought Rocky cut a great promo. I will never not be able to think of the term sneaky style now every time that I see Rocky Romero. Man, yeah, I thought it was a solid match, but yeah, I thought it was gonna. They definitely played the heel side of Lee Moriarty a little bit more than I thought they were going to, which is fine. I mean, that's the way they want to book him, the way they want to go with him. Heel, face, or indifferent, he's rock solid. I love seeing him. This is our 3rd week in a row that we've seen Lee Moriarty on ROH TV. I'm all about it, here for it. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. This is a really nice undercard feud, and I really like seeing. I like seeing Pure matches outside of Pure title defenses. I think it's important. Keep people. Hey, bud, you got a run in here for my cat Atticus, 2nd night in a row. He was on the debate show last night too. So he's I think it's good to get people comfortable with the rules and with that style of match, instead of just seeing it, once a month on ROH TV or once every other month on a pay-per-view. So it's a cool division. It's a really cool set of rules. It makes for a great match. But yeah, hopefully we get to see. This is not, they're at 1-1 now between the two of them. So this is not. I'm sure we're going to see chapter 3 between these guys sooner rather than later. And I'm looking forward to it.
And it was interesting too, because they told a story here, and I mentioned before Big Bill getting involved in his own ways. The announcers made sure to make it clear that if any interference happened, there'd be a suspension for either side. So they did that, but they still had Big Bill get involved behind the ref's back. And again, cheap heat. And I understand using that to elicit a reaction during the show. But if you look at the way they told the story, and I thought it was beautifully done in the short period of time they did this, by utilizing these rope breaks. You mentioned Lee Moriarty used a quick one, and that ultimately was pretty much his downfall, because getting locked in that Diablo armbar by the end of the match and being forced to tap out with no rope breaks, it just shows, even in a match that really has limited build, these guys have limited exposure to each other. And you mentioned this is their 2nd match together, but for all intents and purposes, this is a match, a feud that's sort of new, and it feels like it's building into something. But I think what it really did was emphasize the importance of these rules in the Pure match to have an understanding of how it works. Don't just use the rope breaks at will. You got to make sure you save them up, because if Lee had that, he could have got out of the armbar, and that was his demise. So I think getting people to understand the Pure rules, I think on a big stage, this could really hit with people and build some drama within a match.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And I think it did just that tonight, especially with his 2nd break too. Like, he was setting up a move through the ropes, and he just happened to be in a hold and burn his 2nd one. And, if he hadn't done that, he might not have lost the match. So yeah, really, really good storytelling with the rules tonight.
So we move into another proving ground match. It's the 2nd week in a row we're getting a proving ground match with Athena, and she's on a run here. We mention every week she's been a highlight of not only women's wrestling, but she's working that strong style. And I had just watched the Stardom show from this past weekend, the Queendom show, and she fits with that style. And I think the women over in Stardom would welcome her with open arms if she wanted to work over there in the Japanese strong style. But this was pretty quick. And Angela Risk took on Athena. She had the unenviable task of trying to beat at this point, she's the super bad as far as the champs go, she's the top of the mountain. I'll let you cover this match. Tell me what you liked about it. They gave Angela Risk a little bit here, but not a lot.
Yeah, not very much. It's hard to call it just a straight squash. She got a little bit in there, but man, she really took a beating in this, man. It's nice to see Athena, even though she's, as soon as the bell rings, she's right back to being a super heel, but she did adhere to the code of honor before immediately hitting Angelica with a bicycle kick. Risk got a boot in, and then, Athena swiftly took her down again, countering a 619 before dropping Risk down on her face. Athena super kicked a kneeling Risk. Risk got a roll-up attempt, but Athena kicked out like almost immediately and hit another drop kick. So Athena really got up in Mike Posey's face during this match. And, she's been getting a little bit more aggressive week by week with the referees. But, like, man, he was cowering up by the turnbuckle. Like, she's fucking scary. And he was definitely selling it. So that gave a little bit of a opportunity to open up for Angelica Risk. She, was able to get Athena to run into her boot there. She brought Athena down by the hair before hitting a 619 herself, but Risk went up the ropes for a crossbody, and this was the coolest spot in the match to me, man. Athena not only caught her, and Angelica Risk has got some height on Athena, but Athena is so strong and sturdy. Not only did she catch her off the top rope doing a crossbody, she caught her with one arm, which was just like, that blew my mind. If I could have rewound it, I would have gone back and watched it immediately. It's, she catches her. She hits her with 3 consecutive wasteland slams, which I've never seen her do before. I thought that was awesome. And she ended up breaking her down and getting her in the crossface and tapping her out. After the match, puts her into the Skyfall onto the belt. So nice little call out to Sky Blue there. Yeah, I thought another great week of showing that Athena is a force to be reckoned with in women's wrestling. And I mean, Caprice Coleman even said it on the call tonight, man. Like, she's the most dominant champion on any roster, and I'd be hard pressed to see anybody come and challenge that statement.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that's been really what they've done well, is taking someone who was overlooked over on the AW brand, and she felt like she was feuding in a fruitless feud for the TBS championship with Jade Cargill, and she's come over here and really honed her craft. It'd be interesting to see her go back and see what the star power in ROH have brought, as far as what they molded, and go next to Jade Cargill, because she's immensely different. If you go back and watch the highlights of when she was feuding with Jade all these months back before ROH was a separate brand as far as TV goes, she's really cultivated who she is as a champion. And I'm very curious to see who's next after this. And we can circle people in the women's division. We talk about the young talent. I think Sky Blue's next in line feud-wise. I'm not sure if she's the person taking the title off of her, nor should she be right now. But the next person that will be taking that championship, who gets that meaningful feud and eventually beats her, it's going to be a huge reaction. And whether it be Willow or any of these other women that are coming throughout this division, they're going to be in for a huge rub following this because of what they've built with Athena. There's a lot of stock in her, and they're saving it for something big, you can tell.
Oh, yeah, for sure, man. And I think once, if and when she does lose this title, however many months or down the road that is, that's the most logical next step, is to have her go back to AEW, because like you said, it is night and day, man. I mean, she is a totally different persona, and I'm loving what we're seeing from her.
Yeah, and if you guys have not watched ROH consistently, and maybe it just hasn't been floated your way, you guys should be checking out especially Athena's character work, because she's been absolutely crushing it. It just shows when you are highlight, even a person like Lee Moriarty getting some shine throughout the week. It just shows giving people a little bit more of access to the creativity and having the spotlight on them. Athena is a perfect example of, you just need a little bit of leeway and a little bit of rope. So she's been crushing it, and I'm looking forward to see what they're doing at the Death Before Dishonor.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good program no matter who she's with, because she just keeps getting better every week.
I just don't know if it's going to be Sky Blue. I mean, I look at this feud, she's clearly calling her out, but can they bridge that for another 2 months? I don't think so. I think they have to have, similar to what they did at Supercard of Honor, they have to bring somebody in probably from the outside that feels like a big match, and maybe Athena gets another win, or they figure out a way to extend a program. Not sure, but she right now is sort of the money as far as the women's division goes on both sides. I really think she's stronger than any woman, like you mentioned before, in any division. She really feels like she's the strongest.
Yeah, 100%. And honestly, like I think it sounds like we're going to get Sky Blue and Athena next week, and I would honestly be surprised if I'm excited about that pairing, but I would be surprised if we get any more out of it past that next match because I don't see Athena losing.
Yeah, and we see that she can have some length in her matches, but for the most part, these squash matches are so uniquely put together and I think they've done a really good job on ROH specifically with these squash matches especially last week. I think we had 4 in a row where even Brian Cage's squash match wasn't quite your typical go in there, do your shit. Like if you look at AEW side with Wardlow, his squash match was just hit the powerbomb. That was it. Here, even though it's like less than 2 minutes, you still have a little bit of seeing what Angela Risk is all about, even with Lady Frost and all these other women that kind of go up against Athena unsuccessfully. You walk away knowing a little bit about them and what they can bring. So even though it was, pretty quick and it was like a snap of your fingers that if you blinked, you would have missed it. There was some offense from her. And I think that's what's setting these squash matches apart to make them a little bit more fun than the typical, oh, cool, she hit the O face and that's it. I like that she's actually going out there and winning in different ways, making her tap and hit the gory bomb at one point in this match. I mean, I can't say enough good things about her.
Yeah, same here, man. And hey, at least her opponents too, even if it is a glorified squash, at least they're getting a lower third with their name on it in ROH. You can't say that for the last 2 Wardlow matches.
So the next match here is for the television championship, and this was Christopher Daniels and Samoa Joe. So the announcers noted this, and I wrote it down in my notes here, that this is the 92nd time that the two of these men have been in the ring on the opposite sides of each other in their careers. So they have faced each other for the ROH World Championship, the Pure Championship, the TV title. So these guys have a lot of history. They've been in the business for quite some time. We're covering Shot Nostalgia 1998 WWF. Christopher Daniels' name pops up as enhancement talent, attending some training camps. He's been in the business a long time, and he is one of those guys. You want to talk about pillars? Big word here is pillars for AEW. Let's talk about a pillar of ROH. Chris Daniels is one of them, and Samoa Joe might be the other one. So the other two, probably debatable. We go maybe Punk and Danielson. I don't know. Conversation for another time. But the fact that these guys are in the ring in 2023, wrestling over the television championship, it kind of blows your mind. I had one of those moments or like out of body experience watching this match happen. It's like, I cannot believe this is happening in this year. And both guys are still at the top of their game.
Yeah, they both look absolutely incredible, man. Yeah, when the announcer said it was the 92nd time, I was like just doing the math in my head, like that's mind blowing, man. That these guys some wrestlers don't even have many more than 92 matches period in their career, and these guys have had 92 just against each other. It's awesome. But yeah, I mean, I thought this was a good match, man. Solid professional work from two professional guys. Daniels is definitely, I mean, he's past being a serious threat for titles at this point in his career, but like he still gets his shit in, man. Like he is definitely, I see him. I wouldn't say by any means like he's still in his prime. He's still looking good. Most guys, I feel like a lot of guys at his age at this point in their career are not going to be able to go like Chris Daniels is. And yeah, this is what Samoa Joe's 10th title defense now.
Yeah, 10th title defense, and that's what ROH has been doing really well. They're taking in on AEW side. Obviously, Orange is defending that international championship every single night, but these guys are getting all their defenses in. And I like even Claudio. We'll talk about his match in a second. A lot of these guys are defending their championships. They're not holding on to them. And I understand that's the ROH way where you go in the ring and settle it in the ring and defend these championships and be someone who's an honorable champion, with everything that goes into it. Even if you are a heel, you have to abide by the code of honor and defend your championship, stand your ground. You mentioned Chris Daniels not being a threat for a championship. I couldn't agree more. I think watch it. That's what took a little bit away from this match. You knew Chris Daniels wasn't winning the title. Like obviously you built Samoa Joe up to this point as this big monster. It's not ending with Chris Daniels. If you suspend belief, you can kind of close your eyes and maybe pretend for a second there were some near falls in this match. But I think anyone that is an intelligent wrestling fan knew which way it was going. So did it take away from the match? Yeah, I think a little bit. But these guys went out there and you could tell they're comfortable with each other. They were rough with each other. There was very stiff movement. And, we saw all the classics here, with Samoa Joe and Chris Daniels. If you ever seen a Chris Daniels match and Samoa Joe match, they included all the things in there. But it wasn't as long as you probably would have saw back in 2004 when they wrestled over the ROH championship. But I think it was cool just to see them doing this. And it must have been surreal for them to walk through the curtain, taped or not, being able to have that ROH brand on the apron and on the middle of the ring to be able to say 2023, 20 years later, we're in the ring together. with Tony Khan as the owner. Like, you could not have even, no psychic or any person that could read tea leaves could have ever figured out that this would have been the case. And these two guys having a prominent spot on a weekly TV show Thursday nights for ROH, it's a beautiful thing. And obviously Smojo gets the win here. The Muscle Buster was the demise for Chris Daniels. So we haven't seen that used to end a match. Usually it's the choke out, but nice to see the Muscle Buster getting some love here, successfully defending the championship for the 10th time. Solid match. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, same here, man. It was quick, but like there was no time wasted. Like both guys got their shit in, and you can definitely tell that like they're still they haven't lost any of that comfortability with each other. Like, when Joe goes for the coquina clutch and Daniel slips out, like you don't see hardly anybody slip out of the coquina clutch on Joe.
Yes.
Like it's definitely only going to happen from somebody who he's wrestled 92 times.
And they're using Chris Daniels in a good way. And I understand this match is not the best example of it, but I think going forward, we had said in the news a couple of weeks ago that Chris Daniels wants to be featured on ROH television, and selfishly, he wants to still be in the ring, and he feels like he can give back physically with the matches and help young talent. But I think it's the perfect way to use someone like Chris Daniels, because we mentioned behind the scenes as an agent, and AEW has done a beautiful job behind the scenes of building up this plethora of knowledge. And whether guys use it, that's a different conversation for another time. But there's so many guys with a wealth of knowledge, whether it be Jerry Lynn or Dean Malenko, even Jeff Jarrett, dare I say Jeff Jarrett, Chris Daniels, Chris Jericho, guys that are either active or just behind the scenes that have put together matches, been all over the world, traveled countless miles, wrestling in different promotions, different styles with different people, extending the lineage of pro wrestling, and bringing that knowledge tree to AEW and ROH is immense. And people that have this, you could pick Chris Daniels' brain at catering prior to the show or ringside and be able to ask him questions about the heyday of ROH, or, hey, what do you think about this finish or this thing I'm doing in the ring, and getting his feedback in real time. That's such a valuable asset to have that you really can't pay for. And Chris Daniels being active, I would say, I don't even think it's a selfish thing. I think he can give more to people in the ring in real time by having matches with them. And of course, he's not going to beat people. He's not going to go out there and win every match, but working matches with people and learning on the fly with this young talent, I think we're going to see a lot of good things from Chris Daniels at these tapings and help the younger generation, whether it be ROH or AEW. He's going to continue to pay forward what the wrestling business gave to him.
Yeah, and that knowledge and guidance that you're going to get from Chris Daniels is priceless, man. And it's just, I think you hit the nail on the head. And he's, it's awesome to have these guys in a capacity where they can be like trainers, coaches, agents, but to also get the opportunity to work in the ring with this guy and learn from him, in real time, and also for him to, have the opportunity to put some of these younger guys over, do a lot for your career.
Fun fact, and when they did the higher power stuff with the corporation and the Ministry of Darkness and the Attitude Era of WWF, Christopher Daniels was supposed to be the higher power, and they changed their mind. They wanted to be Vince McMahon. So,
oh shit, I would have loved that so much more.
Yep. So just so you know, Fallen Angel Chris Daniels, and that's all rumor and innuendo, of course. But sure. At this point, I would say probably there was at least a conversation about it happening, and he was on that roster. So I mean, he was used as enhancement talent, but Chris Daniels has been all over the place, man. He has so much knowledge and so many stories to tell. And he was a big piece to what Ring of Honor was, the original heart and soul of Ring of Honor. Chris Daniels was a big piece of that. So let's move into the next match here. And we were talking off air about the structure of this card. And there's some nights that we watch this, and I saw this firsthand when I went to UBS and saw that they take the matches, mash them up, figure out different spots, because they're trying to strategically figure out where the crowd would be hottest, figure out a way to structure the card that maybe the main event will hit different. So sometimes the main event of the night in the live audience would be something that didn't feel like the main event. That felt like point in case tonight, that they didn't have the time to edit the show, because the next match here to me was the main event. This should have been the main event of the show. And I think if you had an editing team, and I would probably put money down that this was supposed to be in the main event, but they wanted to tape it here to get the crowd active. They didn't want to have them to sit through another 6 matches. And it was the ROH World Championship. And I know it was an open challenge. I know it wasn't supposed to be billed as this huge match. And Robbie Eagles at the time was a surprise, but we had Claudio out there wrestling Robbie Eagles. And if you are not familiar with Robbie Eagles, he's one of the best junior heavyweights in New Japan. He's a guy who can bring it. Seeing him here, very impressive. I thought he was very impressive. I know the dance partner's Claudio, but very impressive for Robbie Eagles. And I 100% would sign off for a long form version of this match, 25, 30 minutes, where these guys have no limitations, no handcuffs, go out there and just do your thing. But I'll let you cover this Claudio's 7th title defense that we've seen since he's won the title.
Yeah, man, completely agree. I mean, yeah, if you're not familiar with Robbie Eagles, look up some of his stuff. He runs around the TMDK crew. The guy is very impressive. And yeah, I'm with you, man. This should have been the main event. I don't know. Even if it is an open challenge, I don't know how you don't have the world title being a main event. But as I digress, man, started off, like you said, Claudio's 7th title defense. Robbie Eagles uses his speed to take down Castagnoli early, sends him to the floor with a Hurricane Rana. Castagnoli wasn't happy with that. You can see on his face he's already getting a little irritated, so he slaps Eagles in the face before driving him into the corner with, those classic European uppercuts. Castagnoli sets Eagles up and over with a gorilla press before hitting him with a leg drop for a near fall. So early on, it's looking like the Claudio show, man. Eagles rallies and really, really comes back. He fights out of Castagnoli's grip after going, and then goes after Castagnoli's knee, and he continues to target that left knee for the rest of the match. Like, definitely veteran. This is a young kid, but I mean, he's already got veteran style tactics in his matches, especially with somebody with a size difference like Claudio. Targeting a body part is just a classic way to, try to ensure some kind of success. He hits a big dive to the floor before continuing his offense in the ring, hitting running knees into the corner and for a near fall. Eagles laid in kicks, but Castagnoli still took him down. It's just that size difference and that power, man. Claudio's just a machine. Castagnoli went for the giant swing, but Eagles pulled himself up and over before locking in the Ron Miller special. Castagnoli got to the ropes, but Eagles continued with offense, landing a standing sliced bread for a near fall. Love seeing that move. Personally, I think this one could have been a little bit tighter. He didn't get 100% of it, and that definitely showed with how fast Claudio got back.
Twice tonight. We saw it happen in the Rocky Romero match as well. So that match, shout out to Brian Kendrick, sliced bread number 2. Love that move.
It's a great move, man. Yeah, but unfortunately, Eagles did not get all of it here, man. He went for the 450 to the bad leg, but Castagnoli moved and hit a Michinoku driver for a near fall. Robbie avoided a big uppercut before going for a series of flash pins, none of which were working. And then Claudio cut him off with a lariat for a near fall. I thought it was going to be over at that lariat, but Eagles popped back up, got a few more kicks in, and went for another slice bed. Castagnoli powered into this position for the Ricola bomb, and he really sent it home with that, man. There was the impact on that Ricola sit down power bomb. He was not getting back up from that one bit. So this was a great match, man. I'm with you. I would love to see them with, a 45, 60-minute time limit and see it go a little bit longer. But I mean, with the time that they were given, these guys they knocked it out of the park. It was great.
So I wonder what they said in production prior to the show. Maybe they said, make sure your finishes of the matches are unique and they're not usually your finish. Because we saw the Ricola bomb from Claudio, the Muscle Buster, which is Samoa Joe's finish, but he's been using the Coquina clutch. We saw the crossface from Athena. She didn't do the O-face. Interesting. I mean, maybe people are just trying out different finishers, but I like to see different moves ending matches. The Ricola bomb usually is a setup transition move for Claudio. It's not usually his finisher. He usually uses the neutralizer. But I do like seeing moves like that end matches because it adds more legitimacy in the main events eventually when he hits that Ricola bomb on whoever he's wrestling in a big moment. And you know that, yeah, he's usually going to kick out, but there's a chance he beat Robbie Eagles with that move. So I like how you build this is the chance to do that. And I don't think we see it enough in wrestling where you use signature moves to end matches during TV time because when the V trigger doesn't end every match with Kenny Omega and it has to be the one-winged angel, sometimes it's awesome to have him finish with that move that usually someone kicks out of because it also adds some stock and some meaning and importance to that move. And I don't think we see it enough. How many times have we seen Triple H end a match not with the pedigree? It would have been nice to see him end it with one of those like the knee buster or a spine buster or finishing with the Indian Deathlock that he was using for a bit of the figure 4. Use TV for that. That's what it is. It's creative time for you guys to figure it out. And this way, in a main event match, they break the move out and there's still a chance in your mind. Remember him ending a match with it. So there's a chance and adds a little bit more drama.
Yeah, it's a little more drama and it just makes it a little bit less predictable, man. It kind of throws the fans off from being able to purely navigate where they are in the match. Like, you see, like, typically we see, like you said, we see that move. Like, this is transitional. This could be 3/4 of the way through the match, not the end. So, yeah, I love seeing that. And man, you bring up a good point. I didn't notice that, yeah, we'd seen this throughout the night. So, whoever's idea that was, good booking.
Yeah, and so we move into the next match here, but before we do, we have Dasha in the back with Sky Blue. Sky Blue took issue with Athena using her move and also sticking her nose in everybody's business and bullying the locker room. And she laid out that challenge you mentioned before. It's going to be Sky Blue versus Athena for the ROH Women's Championship next week. Listen, obviously Sky Blue is not winning the title next week, but I think you have something here with Sky Blue and Athena going forward. And maybe the match ends in a way where Sky Blue looks good but loses, continues the story. And is it the money feud that can lead you into Death Before Dishonor? Probably not. But I also think there is Sky Blue has been one of those people we mentioned, ROH giving a little bit of shine to certain people and making them look better. We mentioned certain names. Sky Blue is one of them. I think she's been lost on the AEW roster, and she has shown immense talent in the limited time she's had in AEW. And we've seen her on Dark, RIP to Dark and Elevation, no longer a thing, but we've seen them doing their thing. Sky Blue has been featured in ways, and having this outlet to have this main feud with Athena, really cool. We're going to see we're going to measure how far she's grown since being there. And I think she's a future women's champion in AEW, in ROH, if they continue this match. She's so young. She's so talented. It will be a cool match next week.
Yeah, I think it will too, man. And I thought she continues to grow every week. Like, it's been nice for her to come into ROH and get the shine and go on a, you know, albeit small, but like a 3 or 4, you know, undefeated win streak. That's doing great things for her. And I thought her call out tonight, even though it was short and sweet, it was really well executed. She's getting better on the mic every time she gets a shot.
So we move into this next match here, and this was, as you say, it was a mess of amount of names, but we're gonna do our best here to give you guys all the action, and you guys can see it on the scroll. The best friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta, love seeing them back in ROH. Action Andretti, Darius Martin, Stu Grayson with Alex Reynolds, Evil Uno, and John Silver took on the Kingdom, which was Matt Taven and Mike Bennett, the Varsity Athletes, Ari Daivari and Josh Woods and Tony Nese, with Maria Kanellis and Mark Sterling in their corner. So I also saw, by the way, as we're mentioning the Varsity Athletes, someone said somewhere, whether it be Instagram or Twitter, I saw it in passing, and forgive me, whoever said it, you deserve credit because I thought it was awesome. They said that their tag team name should be Nese and Desist, which, how is it not that? Like,
yeah, that's low hanging fruit. They should definitely capitalize on that. It's definitely better than Varsity Athletes and the Trustbusters by a mile.
So this is a 10-man tag match with all the people in the corners as well. So Chuck Taylor, Trent Beretta, Action Andretti, Darius Martin, Stu Grayson on one side, as we mentioned, Matt Taven, Mike Bennett, Ari Daivari, Josh Woods, Tony Nese on the other side, not to mention Reynolds, Uno, Silver on the corners, Kanellis, and Sterling all there. So absolute chaos. This was a scramble. I mean, Team Best Friends took down Taven with an absolute flurry of offense to begin the match. We saw a lot of highlights here. Grayson hit a moonsault. Nese and Beretta going at it on the apron, which was cool to see. But we go to the end here. We got a superplex, so a pile of bodies on the floor. So if you're trying to follow the action, it's very challenging to do so. There's a lot of bodies, as we mentioned, 10 guys going at it, not to mention the guys on the outside. But we get Action Andretti scoring the pinfall here with the swinging neck breaker, score the win. And we get a group hug at the end of the match. This was just a fun party match, and it didn't get enough time, in my opinion. Probably could have shined a little bit brighter, but a lot of personalities for a lot of people on the card. The crowd was kind of up for this too. I think they were just excited to see all the chaos in there, and when there was inside the ring, outside the ring, a lot of different personalities and a lot of star power too with Chuck Taylor, Trent Beretta, and especially, Evil Uno, John Silver, Alex Reynolds. Those guys are still very over with the live audience.
Oh, definitely, man. And like you said, I mean, it's just chaos when you get this many people in the ring, man. I mean, it's hard not to be just swept up in it, especially in a crowd in person, because like everywhere you look is just nonstop action. Like I was thinking about the call team, and I'm like, God, having a play-by-play this match right now just must be like an anxiety nightmare because there's so much going on. But I mean, yeah, I think they could have had a little bit more time. But it was cool to see Andretti get the pin here, man. See him get a little bit of shine. It was a nice hit on the move. We did see the Righteous come out there to distract Stu Grayson again. Like I said, love this slow burn that they're doing with the Righteous. It only made sense to add 2 more guys to the already 12 people that were out there just to make it even a little bit more crazy. But a lot of people will criticize a match like this and just say it's almost too much going on to really enjoy. But I thought for the time they were given that it was done pretty well. So, we were talking about, a few weeks back leading up before we got to before we got to Super Card of Honor, how we thought AR Fox, Metalik, Blake Christian were a hodgepodge team. Man, talk about a hodgepodge.
Oh yeah,
best friends, Stu Grayson, and then Action Andretti and Darius Martin. I will say though, it's kind of cool to see Darius and Andre. Easy for me to say, pal. Action Andretti, come out in not matching gear but similar gear. So yeah, I thought that was cool coordination on their part. So definitely a preview that we might be seeing them team a little bit more in Dante's absence.
Yeah, in longer form, this reminds me of like an early 90s Survivor Series match where like it's just strange bedfellows and guys that are sort of they're linked together loosely. It was cool. And like you said, it didn't have enough time to even sink in by the time it started, it ended, and it just was off to the races from the beginning. And it was fun. I think every card benefits from having a party match like this. And there's an art to it as well by doing it in the right way and keeping the audience entertained, because sometimes, as you said, they could check out because it could become too much. But like you said before, I think this match I personally would have liked more time, but I think they did the job understanding the card, understanding the audience at this time. A lot of cool things happening in this match. And if you missed it, I would go back and check it out. But the main story is after the match with the Righteous, trying to woo people and being creepy on the ramp, continuing the storytelling. And I think the Righteous their intentions will be known soon, I think.
I hope so. Yeah, it's getting. Like I said last week and this week, I was saying I was enjoying the slow burn. If we go 2 more weeks with just them running out to the ramp and nothing happening, I'm going to start getting a little antsy.
So we get back to the back, and Athena is now with Dasha, and you know how Dasha feels about Athena and vice versa. Athena was saying, obviously I accept Sky Blue's challenge, like without saying I'm going to go out there and beat her up. And she also was harassing her, and more Dasha and Athena heat, and Athena abusing announcers more than The Rock used to abuse Michael Cole and Kevin Kelly back in the 90s. So that's becoming Athena's thing. She beats up enhancement talent, and she also abuses backstage broadcasting talent. So she's a heel. She's a heel, baby.
Speaking of being a heel, she threw a pretty sharp barb at Sky Blue, man, that I don't know if a lot of people caught. She said that Sky Blue's been coasting by on her sex appeal, which was a fucking heater, man. I loved that. I thought that was great. So that I think the mic, there's a lot on the lot of meat on the bone to have Sky Blue and Athena go back and forth on the mic. I hope we get to see a little bit of it.
For sure. And I think we will leading up. Like I said, I don't think next week will be the end. And I think they taped that match for spoilers. So probably try to avoid them if you guys can. But there's definitely more extension to this feud aside from next week. And I think there's going to be more to it going forward, whether it's in the near future, who knows? But I think there's a long program within it filled with good promos and good matches. So we go to the next match here, and this is just another enhancement match. Preston Vance getting a shot, and he has Jose the Assistant in his corner, taking on Rich Adonis. And Rich Adonis has no shot here. So Preston Vance getting the win. Discus Lariat ends it. Vance locked in the full Nelson before that. Yeah. What's your thought on Preston Vance as a heel now, mask off, obviously teaming up with Jose the Assistant and having that appeal to him with Roosh? Are you buying him as a main guy?
Yeah, I definitely am, man. I think he's got a great look. I really like seeing him out here. They're billing him at 221 pounds. Brothers look a little thicker than that to me. So I'd like to actually see him on a scale because he's looking pretty swole. I am buying it, man. I'd like to see, this match is what we call in the Mid-South a squash. Like there was absolutely no offense, no chance, like you said, from Adonis coming in. I'm buying him as a main guy, but in order for me to continue to buy it, I need to see something other than squashes out of him. I want to see him get in a little bit of a program with somebody, some kind of undercard feud. I think there's plenty of ample opportunity. So, maybe another week or so of squash matches, but I want to see him get into a program with somebody because, I think the guy's great in the ring. I think he's got a great look. I'm excited to see, if anybody was going to spin off from Dark Order and be, go out on their own, I think Preston Vance is the perfect candidate.
Yeah, he looks great, and I think he's a good-looking dude, and I think he has a good presentation. Jose the Assistant might be the guy with him. I do like having that pairing and having Roosh around him. I have liked them as a team. Seeing him here getting some shine, it has me thinking maybe they have bigger plans for him. So we'll see going forward. But, yeah, this was just a squash match, getting some straight from WWF superstars back in the day. Like just get them in there, get your shit in, and hit my music, brother.
Yeah, get out. Less than 3 minutes.
So we have another match here. In the same vein as the squash matches we talked about before, it's Sky Blue taking on Robin Renegade. And the function of this match is to get Sky Blue ready and make her look strong going into Athena. My question to you is, do you feel like they did that? Obviously, Sky Blue gets the win, hit the Skyfall for the Skyfall for the win. But did they do enough to make Sky Blue look like she's ready for Athena? Because I walked away saying maybe they should have did a little bit something different to get her ready for next week. Not saying I don't buy her as maybe the women's champion, but I don't know. Why did Robin Renegade test her more than she should have?
Robin Renegade got a whole hell of a lot of offense in on this match, man. I was asking myself the same thing. I was like, man, if we're really just putting her out here to set her up to look, hot and heavy and strong going in against Athena, we didn't really do that. There was a little bit, and not saying that Robin Renegade doesn't deserve to get some time in and get some offense in. She's obviously got talent, but yeah, I just don't know if this was the spot or the match for it. It's kind of interesting booking, but yeah, she got a lot more offense in. I mean, obviously we all know that Sky Blue is going to win this match, but I assumed it would be a little bit more of a similar booking to what we saw previously in the match right before with Preston Vance. And yeah, I thought in the offense that Robin Renegade got in was just a little bit more hard hitting than the offense that Sky Blue got in for, pound for pound. So yeah, it was interesting. So we'll see.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to go for this underdog story where they're like, all right, she took a beating from Robin Renegade. I wonder what Athena is going to go. So maybe they're going from that path. But I would have taken from, especially the way the show has been constructed with the backstage promo and having her look strong, throwing barbs at Athena. And I think it would have been better suited just doing that, especially if the match was constructed this way unless you were going to do something just to kind of showcase her in a good way. I don't think it did that. I understand she got the win, but she was challenged and she kind of escaped with the win by the skin of her teeth, which is not the way you probably want to go into a match against Athena, who's been dominating.
Yeah, definitely not. I don't even think, now that we say it like that, I don't even know if it was necessary for her to have a match tonight leading into this. So, interesting choice.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Sky Blue hit some of her trademark moves. I mean, the rising knee, the single leg drop kick, obviously the Skyfall ended it, but maybe we're nitpicking here, but I'm looking at this big picture. If you want that match to feel like a money match, and I know it only has a week build, but I think weak WEAK is a better representation than just a weak WEEK. But let's move into the next match here. And it's another very quick match. Brock Anderson, who's been teaming on his end, taking Griff Garrison's spot in the tag team for a bit. We've seen Brock Anderson. His dad is now on TV with Wardlow, so maybe we'll see Brock Anderson float back into the AEW television rotation. But during this rotation for ROH, his job was to take a beating from Brian Cage, and Brian Cage did just that. Drill Claw ends the match. Thoughts on this match as far as Brian Cage and Brock Anderson? Of course, we know the right person went over, but similar story to other things. Is Brock Anderson the right guy to be getting beaten up like this?
I mean, I think Brock Anderson's fine to be getting beaten up on right now. I mean, he's got that name recognition to be an Orange Sun, so I think just him getting out here getting reps is just fine. I thought for what little offense that Brock got in, he looked good, man. I mean, he hit a signature Anderson DDT that looked real nice tonight. And Brock's got a great look, man. He looks a lot like his dad. Loved his interest, loved his gear. I'm really excited to see more of him. The promo I got to see from the last Dark with Brock Anderson and Brian Pillman, I thought was just excellent. I think they'd be a great team. I'd like to see more of that. So yeah, I just hope we get to see more Brock Anderson getting some reps in, because what we saw didn't look bad, even though it was brief. So I mean, yeah, Cage is just on a rampage, man. I don't see that guy taking an L from anybody anytime soon.
But what's the future with these 6-man championships, especially Brian Cage is on the singles push right now, and deservedly so. Brian Cage is a monster, just re-signed. I love Brian Cage. AEW, ROH, it doesn't matter. Brian Cage is awesome, but the 6-man titles just, again, go back to the conversation we had originally. Is there a reason the 6-man titles even exist in ROH?
Well, and I was wondering too, with the promo we had this week from the House of Black, talking about the rules they are setting up for trios defenses with the 20 count, the no rope breaks, and then also seeing that trios battle royal on AEW, if that's not another tea leaf or breadcrumb that we might be combining the 6-man ROH and the trios titles in AEW. And I mean, especially if we're just going to continue to not see Gates of Agony for going on 4 or 5 weeks of TV right now. Like, where the hell are these guys? I don't really see I don't really see a point with keeping the 6-man titles around, you know, in ROH if we're not going to do anything with them. So yeah, be interesting to see. Maybe Gates of Agony come back next week, but I don't know. There seems to be. I mean, we have a lot of people on the roster between AEW and ROH, but I don't know if we have enough to support 2 6-man or / trios titles or being in existence. It might be time to combine them. And I think the trios belts in AEW are better looking belts. So I'm going to pick those if I have to pick a side.
No, I agree with you. And I think bringing the 6-man titles was adventurous on their end, especially when they first did it, when they brought them back into the fold with doing that whole thing prior to the trios. It was interesting. And I thought it was signaling maybe they're not going to go with the trios division. And then they announced the trios titles and the fact that both exist. And I understand Tony Khan wants to stay within the lineage and be respectful to the history of ROH. But I think by both existing, it takes away from each other because like you said, I think the divisions can't be as stacked, and just having 6-man divisions, it's tough to build divisions on that. And we've seen on AEW side we had the origin of the title had all of these teams, and all of a sudden it's kind of shrunk down to a smaller division than we thought we would have. And on top of it, ROH doesn't have their champions, nevertheless, any challengers sort of lining up. I mean, you can make teams up, the hodgepodge teams, as we mentioned, but I think Brian Cage is better suited to be loosely associated with the embassy, have opportunities to team with them, but at the end of the day, be a top guy by himself. And I think he's better suited for that, not being grouped into a trio, because he's bigger than that, in my opinion, especially now that he's signed. Like he's going to be there.
I definitely agree. And I can't think of right now, in my opinion, I think he's top contender to take the TV title belt off of Joe. I can't think of anybody better.
Yeah, I would be interested in that feud. I think both those dudes going at it would be certainly excellent. I wonder if they've had any history back in Impact, because I think their times have crossed, but I'll look that up soon because I think that's an interesting match, especially where they are now in 2023.
Yeah, it'd be something to see for sure.
So we move to the next match here, and this is Willow Nightingale taking on Steph DeLander. I'll let you cover through this match. Willow, I mean, we mentioned who can take that rub. I mentioned Willow from Athena. She might be the person. I mean, we see her being featured in AEW television, and she's getting a lot of shine. She's mostly on the losing side of things on AEW, but that's okay. Big fan of Willow, local to my area on Long Island, NYWC graduate. She is infectious as far as charisma goes. She's just always like that. Music hits, it's hard not to dance. Saw some Willow shirts in the crowd last night at Dynamite when she came out. But yeah, I think she's awesome here. And it's awesome. I love to see her get W's. And that's what I've really been enjoying about ROH, because she's getting W's here.
Yeah, she's getting consistent W's in ROH. And man, yeah, if you're not on with Willow, I don't know what the hell's wrong with you, man. She's just great. Like you said, infectious is a great word for it.
She's a shot of dopamine as soon as she walks through the curtain. Seriously, she's a ray of sunshine.
And I mean, we saw her have like a brief program with Athena when ROH Weekly TV first started. So I think this run of her, getting consistent wins on TV is a nice setup for her to have another shot at that title. She absolutely deserves it. In my opinion, she'd be a great person to take the belt off Athena. This match, though, man, Steph DeLander is definitely somebody we've been seeing a lot more out of on the indies. She's kind of been, Matt Cardona's hired muscle on the indie scene. Been seeing a lot of her via Matt Cardona's social media. This was this is the first person that we've seen that's been evenly matched in power versus Willow that I've seen since she's been on ROH or AEW, which I thought was great, man. Like, honestly, the first thing I wrote in my notes after the end of this match was, I wish they had more time. I want to see these two wrestle again with more time, because it was a good match, man. I mean, it was quick, but they both got their shit in. I thought it was a good showcase for both. Nightingale took down DeLander with a shoulder block like pretty much immediately. She followed up with an enziguri, but Steph cut her off as she went into the top rope. DeLander hit a big boot and a suplex for a near fall early on. Steph hits DeLander hit a cannonball and then Nightingale for a near fall. Nightingale avoided a charge and took DeLander again later down the line. And then Willow hits a cannonball into the corner. That's just, man, really, really rocked Steph right there. She fought her way back up but ran into a spine buster for the win. Like I said, man, I hope that we get to see more Steph DeLander in Ring of Honor too, because she's got a great look. She can go. And like I said, you're not coming across too many women that are power-wise evenly matched with Willow. And I think these two there's a lot more meat on the bone to down the line for them to have more matches together.
And we move to our main event, which wasn't really our main event. And I will stand by the fact that this just was not edited. Maybe the ROH production team didn't have time to fix the show up, but you had a full week, guys. So not sure what you're doing. Claudio and Robbie Eagle should have been the main event here, editing wise. And I think if they're going to be taping, they need to be taping in order. You don't want to handcuff yourself and try to figure out ways to edit the show and make it seem right because you want to manipulate what the crowd reaction is. If that is the issue, if the crowd reaction is an issue, you got to figure out a different way to get the crowd up. And maybe it's the bulk tapings in Universal where it's just ROH centric. You don't have to worry about a fatigued crowd following AEW. But we have Angelico with Serpentico in his corner taking on Commander. Again, this is not a main event. Like no way it's a main event, not a main program. And of course, I love Commander, biggest advocate for Commander, and I love that he signed with AEW. I love having him here in ROH. I think he's a great asset, and I think we're going to see great things. He's want to talk about top luchas in the world right now as far as up and coming. You can put Vikingo as 1A and Commander 1B as far as what they can do in the ring and redefining what it takes to be a high flyer. And the rope walk stuff we're seeing Commander. You mentioned before, Commander seemed off in this match, and it might have something to do with the injury, might have something to do with maybe, I don't know, maybe this was not a main event match. Maybe they just knew it wasn't going to be the main event, but it didn't feel like, it didn't feel like this. And Commander wound up getting the win. And for whatever reason, I wrote Angelico got the win here over Commander, but Commander wound up getting the win with the shooting star press. So what about this match felt a little bit off to you, aside from just Commander not having the same rhythm?
And I don't know, man, the whole thing felt off. And Angelico is somebody that we expect to see kind of a lot of movement and high flying from as well. And I feel like he didn't really do a whole lot. I feel like he just kind of stood around for the most part and, waited for, I saw a whole lot more like lockup and holds from Angelico than we usually see. And like I said, maybe this is something that, I expected this to be not necessarily I didn't expect it to be as good as the Vikingo and Commander match that we saw at Supercard of Honor, but I expected it to be a lot closer to that action level than what the action level we saw tonight was. Like it was pretty underwhelming all around. And maybe you're right. Maybe it had something to do with Commander's injury, but I just feel like Angelico didn't do a whole lot. He wasn't much of a dance partner for him. He just kind of, there wasn't a lot going on. Something just felt off all the way around. It also just kind of felt like it I don't know, even for a main event, that it ran pretty quick altogether. But yeah, something was off here. I hope that, Commander, I hope both guys are good and nobody's too hurt. But, like you said, Commander picked up the win. Probably coolest part about this match is what happened afterwards, man. They abided by the code of honor, but then Serpentico came in and started beating down on Commander, and we got to see Orange and Bandito come out and save him. I think it's been cool to see Bandito running around with Orange the last couple of weeks on AEW after their matchup 2 weeks ago, and he was, came out to the ring with him this week. I don't know if I want to see a ton of Orange Cassidy in Ring of Honor, not because I don't like Orange Cassidy. I'm a huge Orange Cassidy mark. I think he's great, but he's the international champion. I do like some crossover is fine, but I do want to see some separation. And for your big names and your big champions, I don't know if I want to see any AEW champions on ROH TV. I know we see Claudio, but he's a member of the BCC. We see him on AEW. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see where they go with this. But yeah, I don't know. All around, this was just kind of a flop for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think, honestly, we talked about it week after week with these live tapings that they have. And they're like, oh, we're going to put this match in the middle because we feel like the crowd will be hotter for this. And we're going to move it here in this first match. Because if you look at the spoilers of these matches for other events, you have main events being taped third or sometimes the opening match. So they have the most investment from the crowd because that's what they want to drive and show highlights of, because they don't want the crowd to be worn out by the time the main event happens, which I understand, but it's got to be a better creative solution because you have weeks like this where it's clear that wasn't supposed to be the main event. I'll stand by and maybe we'll see news and maybe someone will post about it, but that wasn't supposed to be what was in the main event slot. And it could have been any of the other matches. And I love Commander, but this match is not a main event program. It's just not driving the story further. So, it's nice to see Commander out here, and he was able to do the rope walk stuff and he with the shooting star. But you're right, he wasn't 100% right, and I'm hoping that maybe he needs some time off. And he's been taking bookings like all over the place. GCW, going to AAA. He's all over the place. So maybe he's starting to run down a little bit. Timmy Vikingo, something you may need to slow it down a bit, take a few weeks off and heal that body up. But yeah, that's was the end of the show. It was anticlimactic for sure.
Very much so. And I mean, yeah, just because you guys are young, just because you're 24 and 25 doesn't mean you don't need to take a night off here and there. Like, be good to your bodies, guys. Shit.
All right, let's get to top honors. Talk about our match of the week or our favorite segment of the week or interview, maybe. All right, top honors here, Colton. What was your favorite part of tonight, our 10th week of ROH TV that we just watched?
It's got to be what should have been the main event, man. Robbie Eagles versus Claudio Castagnoli for the world title. What a way to start out this open challenge that Claudio that introduced out there. He put an open challenge. It could have been anybody, man. I was not expecting it to be Robbie Eagles. I thought that was a great guy to answer the call. They had a banger of a match, and I would watch it again any other time with more time or less. I thought these guys did great together.
Love that match. I think Robbie Eagles fit like a glove. Working with a guy like Claudio, would love to see it extended, but I'm going to go with Samoa Joe and Chris Daniels for the TV title. I thought this match, again, this could have been another match that was a main event. We talked about the number of these times that these guys have been across the ring from each other. 92. That's accurate. I do trust the ROH research team. 92nd time across the ring from each other. That just speaks volumes. As you mentioned, some people don't have the blessing of having 92 matches in their career, never mind against the same opponent. And, think about the history between the ROH World Championship matches, the Pure Championship matches, the TV title matches, tag matches all over the world, and then seeing Samoa Joe defend his title. And as we mentioned, took a little bit away from the match because Chris Daniels not a viable contender in this day and age. But if you suspend belief and look at the history, that was enough to kind of take it to the next level. As I mentioned, it felt a little bit nostalgic seeing the two of these guys lock up on ROH TV. And imagine if you're having a conversation with the two of them at a younger age, like this is where you'll be in 20 years working on TV, luxury and a great paycheck, and you work all the dates you're working. It's all going to pay off. Good stuff.
Yeah, great shit. I don't think either of these guys would have guessed this is where they'd be 20 years ago or 20 years from now, 20 years ago.
All right, let's get to the honorable mentions and talk about the match I suggested last week. And I have a new match for you to check out this week. All right, for honorable mention, every week in alignment with the history of ROH, I recommend one match for Colton to check out, then he reviews it. Before I give you the match I have for this week, tell me about the match I gave you last week and how much you enjoyed it or didn't enjoy it.
Dude, all right. Tyler Black, Bryan Danielson versus American Wolves, Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards, tag team title classic from 2009 in Toronto. Man, what a ride. This match was awesome, dude. And it's you'd give me a heads up. Like, this is a longer one for sure. I mean, this one had a 45-minute time limit, and it went all 45 minutes of the limit, man. It was this is a really, really good match, man. And like I said, I haven't watched a ton of Tyler Black's work in Ring of Honor. I've been really excited to dive into that since you and I started doing this show. And this was a really good one, a first one for you to suggest for me. A tag team main event for a show is just something you don't see, all that often. Very, very technical start between these guys. It was Tyler Black and Eddie Edwards started off the match. A lot of wrist locks, a lot of waist holds. Just kind of keeping things close to the mat. One thing I did sidebar that I wanted to ask you about, and we can talk more about it another time, but just put it out there so I don't forget. Announce team was talking about Bryan Danielson's accolades and saying how he had retired the Pure Championship. So was the Pure Championship retired in 2009?
Yeah, his run as Pure Champion was like one day. So he because he was world champion and combined it, so he liquidated it as a unification match.
Oh man, okay, yeah, I'm glad it's back in the new era of Honor because I couldn't imagine it without it, man.
While you're talking, I'll pull up the lineage so I can tell you exactly when it came back and all that.
Okay, right on. But yeah, man, This was great, man. First of all, Davey Richards, Eddie Edwards, both these guys. I mean, all the guys involved in this match are great. But if you're not familiar with Davey Richards' work, he's not a super tall dude, but brother is stacked. I mean, he's just ripped to shreds, man. He is built like a bulldog. Really interesting, first like 10, 12 minutes of the match, really going tit for tat in strategy between these two teams. You've got, a lot of quick tags, suplex and slams going back and forth. Kind of a slow start, but in the best way. It was, there was a lot of disrespect coming from the Wolves towards you can definitely tell that they're the heels here, even though the champions coming in. The crowd's real hot for Tyler Black and Bryan Danielson. Richards gets Tyler Black tied up in the corner and runs at him like he's gonna do a sliding baseball kick, and actually just like lightly nut taps him, which was like a real nice fuck you. He got a warning from Todd Sinclair immediately to not be pulling anything like that. Tyler Black was in there for a while getting his ass kicked, and Bryan Danielson finally gets tagged in, and man, he just starts teeing off. He comes in with some brutal European uppercuts, running knee strikes, and then you get stereo submission from Tyler Black and Daniel Bryan. Tyler Black's got Eddie Edwards in a sleeper wrapped up in the ropes, while Bryan Danielson's got him in I believe this might have been the first of 3 cattle mutilations at this point. It was a submission show left and right, man. It was great. Another high spot was Tyler Black and Daniel Bryan hitting they didn't get 100% of it on the clothesline, but they hit a heart attack on American Wolves, which was really cool. Nice nod to the Heart Foundation, which I thought was great. Man, so at one point Tyler Black goes up to the top rope to hit a Phoenix splash on Davey Richards, but Eddie Edwards comes up, gets him with a kick to the head, knocks Tyler Black off, and he falls through a table on the outside of the ring. And man, we don't see anything from Tyler Black for a while. Like, he is laid out for, God, probably the better half of close to the 10-minute mark, man. Like, we don't see anything from Tyler Black, and Bryan Danielson is just getting his ass handed to him, getting the double team off and on. That was one thing that the strategy of American Wolves you could see was there was extended amounts of time where Bryan Danielson and Tyler Black did not have the option to tag their partner in, and it was quick tags the whole time between American Wolves. They were not allowing themselves to get worn out. And man, one of the craziest spots is, sorry, I lost my place in my notes here. I took a lot of notes for this match. It was a good one.
My question to you is, Seth Rollins, as far as you've seen him, I know you're not really familiar with Tyler Black. This is one of your first entry into watching him in a long form match. How does he compare with Seth Rollins now, watching him in big matches in WWE? Does it seem like a different person? Do you see glimpses of this Tyler Black?
I definitely see glimpses. It doesn't seem like a different person, but I definitely wish that, and I don't know if it's just the way that WWE book shit and the way they don't want him to do things, but I would like to see a little bit more Tyler Black in current day Seth Rollins for sure, man. Like, this was, and the crazy thing is, this is 2009. This is 14 years ago. Seth really doesn't look any different, to be honest. Like, he hasn't aged much. He's still in incredible shape, but yeah, this is, I will watch. I'd take Tyler Black. I can tell just by watching this one. I'll take Tyler Black matches over Seth Rollins matches all day, any day, man.
It's crazy too if you look at just how the time that passes from 2009 to 2015, WrestleMania 31, where he cashes in probably the apex of his career. And people can make the argument the character now is one of the best iterations of him, but that moment where he cashes in on Lesnar and Reigns during the main event, that's not too far away from where he is now, and to see where he is working. And Danielson too. Got to think about Danielson's only 5 years removed from being in New Orleans at the Superdome, winning the world title. Like, it's crazy wrestling move. And 5 years ago, think about where you were 5 years ago. It's not that long ago.
Right. It's really not, even though it can feel like a long time. Man, I will say one of the craziest spots I've ever seen in a match was definitely in this match was when Davey Richards literally somersaulted through the ropes into the third fucking row. Like, he didn't just go over the barricade. He went 3 rows back into the crowd. And then Danielson comes right behind him and does the same thing, man. It was just absolute chaos. Like, what an exciting match this would have been to be in person for. Like I said, a lot of stereo submissions going on in this match on both sides. Absolutely loved it. I thought Bryan Danielson was going to tap out to that cloverleaf more than one time, but we all know that that's how good the storytelling was in this match. Is we all know that Daniel Bryan never taps, never quits. Or Bryan Danielson never taps, never quits. He's going to pass out before he taps. But they had me going multiple times during this match, man. And I mean, Tyler Black hits a buckle bomb into a super kick, and you think that's going to be it. And I can't remember if it's Eddie Edwards or Davey Richards at that point, but whoever he's pinning between the two, they get their foot on the rope, bring it back, and then we get stereo cattle mutilation from Tyler Black and Bryan Danielson. And we get the 60 seconds to go warning. Like, we are at minute 44. And man, I was on the edge of my seat, being like, holy shit, are they going to pull it off here? 60 seconds is not a lot of time. And, you know, to my surprise, American Wolves held on, man. It went to the time limit and they retained because it was a time limit draw. That's something we don't see a lot. And I love seeing shit like that because, like, if you're not going to, every now and again, if you're not going to go the time limit and let it be a draw, then what's the point of having a time limit?
Right.
So I loved this finish, even though I definitely I think the entire crowd wanted to see Danielson and Tyler Black take it home. I did too. I thought it was great storytelling and a great finish, man. I mean, yeah, this was a great tag team match, man. This should be a required study for any tag team in wrestling today, or anybody hoping to get into it. Watch this match. If you haven't seen this match, take 48 minutes out of your day and watch it. It'll be the best 3/4 of an hour you've spent in a long time.
High praise. That might be the highest praise you've given for the matches I've assigned so far. And I agree, man. I think the draws are so good because, like you said, they build legitimacy. You want to talk about these signature moves, ending matches, but also ending matches under different endings, like having the draws and having the DQs, having countouts gives legitimacy to it could actually happen in a big spot. So when you have a match, it adds to the drama. This match was the same, and I think the right finish was the draw. And I think you can look at it now through hindsight, and I think if people were watching it live, they were upset with the finish. They wanted something a little bit more meaningful. They wanted something more decisive. But I think matches like that age like fine wine, because if you look at even the match with Omega and Danielson, I think the right finish was the draw. You know, and I stand by that. I think also even the Samoa Joe and the CM Punk match, right finish was the draw, and it adds to the story. And as long as you can step outside of this traditional way of thinking about wrestling, as far as WWE has conditioned us to believe, if you don't get a finish, it's going to be it's a weak way of booking. It adds to the story, and I think this match is a perfect example. If they're two strong tag teams, like they couldn't get a finish, and that sometimes is a beautiful way to end and continue the story.
Well, it elevates both teams even more so by doing it like that, man. Yeah, like you said, it ages like fine wine. This was, you know, I could come at this match and not know anything about the storyline between these two teams, and the fact that it ends like this, it makes it stronger for me.
So the match I have assigned for you this week, spoiler alert, I mean, you can see over my shoulder, I got I'm one of the biggest Bryan Danielson fans ever, and how can you have matches, you know, and great matches, not talk about Bryan Danielson? So I feel like I mention him every week, but it's just the matter of fact. He owns a great deal of the best matches in ROH history. This match was from the Epic Encounter, April 12th, 2003. So 6 years prior to the match I gave you before. So a younger Bryan Danielson taking on Paul London. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with Paul London from, I mean, you can go back to 2004, Cruiserweight champion and teaming with Brian Kendrick, and most famously has the Royal Rumble elimination, probably one of the best eliminations ever, where he got clotheslined and inside out of the Rumble. This match in ROH, early days of ROH, pure wrestling, no gimmicks, nothing over the top, just two guys going in there and locking up. This is pretty much a technical marvel. Like, if you go through this match, and it isn't the same spectacle that you get with, say, you know, Bret Hart, or it still has the indie feel, because this is a small venue, not a lot of crowd noise. But to me, it added to the match instead of taking away. The psychology, the technical approach, just the absolute struggle between both these. This is 2 out of 3 falls. So
hell yeah.
You see the exchange of psychology massively put together. It was like watching, you know, guys like Bret Hart wrestle a guy like Owen or like Eddie Guerrero. That's what it felt like, where the two decisive styles, they stuck to what they were good at. and they figured out a way to stay with it. Everything was smooth. Everything was showing on their wrestling prowess from the jump. It wasn't anything to throw in gimmicks. And it was surprising to me to see Paul London being able to extend himself, because you're so used to, I mentioned his time in WWE, but he's done so much more than that. Paul London kind of set the tone for what a high flyer was in that time. And he was a year prior to getting over the WWE and being cruiserweight champion, being the centric part of that division. He worked with Bryan Danielson masterfully and showed a different side of himself. So I'm curious for you to check this match out, because this is wrestling taken seriously. This is pure wrestling. It's not for everybody, because it doesn't have the same atmosphere that a lot of these matches have with the rabid crowds. This feels like this is just art being painted on the canvas, and sometimes art is an acquired taste. So I'm curious if you enjoy this, because this isn't this for a lot of people. And I think Meltzer gave it 4 3/4. I saw it was ranked 4 3/4 by F4W. So it may not be by Meltzer, but it's kind of a hidden gem, very out there as far as a pick. So I'm curious what you think about it.
Yeah, man, looking forward to it. I'm somewhat familiar with Paul London's work, and yeah, I love a 2 out of 3 falls match. So yeah, I'll let you know what I think next week.
All right, well, let's get to the final handshake preview next week and talk about what's going on in the tavern, because you made your return to the debate. So let's talk about it. All right, final handshakes here. Next week's show will be 5/11 for the weekly TV. It'll be our 11th week in a row of doing Honor Society, having 11 weeks straight of ROH TV back on Honor Club. We will be talking about the latest ROH news. Maybe we'll have more to talk about. Maybe we'll get Death Before Dishonor's date and tickets going on sale, more details, and we're going to tie in some ROH history. But before we do that, Colton, what has been going on at Mullet.mania? I saw the debates up there. I saw the Honor Society graphic giving some love to what we do here on Thursday nights. But what else is going on?
Oh, man. Yeah. So debate, I'm going to be on this week. It's my first time in the guest chair in a long time. I've been back on filling in for Tom here and there, but I'm excited to be back on the debate show. I love doing that with the 2 Bad Chads and the OG Fig Good Tom. Really good topics this week, man. We actually, a lot of times you get the 4 of us on there, and we can have the same opinion on some things. We had some debate going this week. It was really good stuff. We talk about the WWE draft and where that's going. We talked about Tessa Blanchard's potential future, which was a little bit controversial. It was some good back and forth there. So yeah, check us out there. Other than putting over the tavern, man, I don't have a whole lot going on Mullet.mania, but stay posted. Keep your eyes peeled. I'm entering a mullet competition in August, September. So trying to bring the trophy home for this Kentucky waterfall. So yeah, stay tuned for some professional photos coming up there. Like, share, give me a follow. But as always, turnbuckletavern.com. Please like, subscribe, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Pro Wrestling Tees. Go get yourself a shirt. The Instagram is continuing to blow up, guys. Thank you so much for the love. We broke 7,000 followers this week, and what I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Ace, but I think we are either just about to or just broke 2,000 followers on YouTube. So that's
yeah, just about.
Huge,
everything's
man.
Popping off here, guys. Get on the train before it pulls away without you.
Yeah, we appreciate it, guys. Yeah, jump on, and it's been a fun ride, and yeah, come along with us. We're having a lot of fun.
As far as my end over here, follow at Acefield Retro, and I'll continue to post wrestling news and all that. But tomorrow night, Shot Nostalgia, we have a big episode, SummerSlam 1998. Bellcaster and I recorded earlier in the week. Great episode, one of the big tentpole events as far as my childhood goes. I love Highway to Hell, MSG. We got Taker versus Austin. We got The Rock versus Triple H in the ladder match for the IC title. We talk about the stuff going behind the scenes on the newsletter. Leno just finishing his match in WCW, and all the craziness going in there, and the highs and lows of the Monday Night Wars. It's a great episode. We are approaching the tail end. We're in the summer, obviously, months with SummerSlam, but we're moving into the fall for 1998. So as I'm wearing Smoky Mountain Wrestling shirt, next season will be Smoky Mountain Wrestling, a short abbreviated season, 7 episodes of 1994, covering 2 months in every episode. So don't know how it's going to be formatted. It's going to be a lot of information, and go through the newsletter and talk to you guys about what was going on in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Whether it be guys like Lance Storm, Chris Jericho, Brian Lee, Chris Candido, Dutch Mantel. There's a lot of good talent there, and curious to see. And this will be going in kind of blind. I know exactly the faces, but I've ever watched, obviously, Smoky Mountain Wrestling programming straight through in 1994. So all available on YouTube. Knock on wood, hopefully it stays there and you guys can check it out. and we're going to use that to guide the thing. And then we'll announce what season 5 is coming forward. And I think we're going to be doing that soon. And we mentioned on the last episode, dropped a really huge hint. So if you're a loyal listener, you probably know what we're doing for season 5. But once we have the graphic and stuff, I'll announce it. But you will not be surprised, nor will you be disappointed. As far as this weekend goes, Saturday, Victory Pro Wrestling Higher Limits. I'll have a Turnbuckle Tavern table, giving out stickers, giving out keychains. Come say hi. I'm selling my Aceville Retro Remarkable Wrestling trading card. So if you want one of those signed, come see me. If not, just come by and talk wrestling and check out good independent wrestling. May 27th, come out to Coram, New York for Danger Zone 2. We're going to be having Gabriel Scott, Channing Thomas for the Remarkable Championship. Gonna be a great night. It's Memorial Day weekend. Come get it started. You guys have the whole weekend to enjoy it. May 27th. It's the day after Double or Nothing, I believe. So
day before, I think. Yeah,
day before Double or Nothing. So you guys come out there and enjoy some pro wrestling on that weekend, and come say hi and support independent wrestling any way you can. You mentioned go to Pro Wrestling Tees, buy those shirts, because some of them are disappearing. If you want that classic purple shot nostalgia shirt, go out there and grab it, because the Two Bad Chads are taking them down. So I got to buy myself another one, because at this point, I wore it so much that the graphic is faded. So I got to get myself another purple one. And you guys pick up that shirt. To me, it's my favorite shirt we have here. And wink, wink, it might be more relevant than not going forward.
There you go.
So that's all we got here, guys. Colton, this has been a pleasure as always. I hope you guys enjoy your weekend. Colton, I'll see you next week, my man, and we'll talk more about ROH.
Sounds good, brother. Looking forward to it.
So, guys, as always, we appreciate you. Go support the tavern, leave a review, do something like that, because it goes a very long way. Support good wrestling fans and support what we do here in the tavern. We work really hard for you in the free content, so I appreciate all the support. Until next week, guys, abide by the code of honor, and we'll catch you next time.